The following video has been created without the use of AI. Please support your human content creators by liking the video and commenting something down below. Subscribing is optional. Now please, enjoy the show. Brian was quietly slurping at his cinnamon-flavored, vanilla-topped Christmas fizzy fizz with cherry-flavored bobas at the bottom. How the concoction managed to be the best-tasting thing Fazbear Entertainment has ever created, no one knew, but it sold well. Absent-mindedly, the day shift guard was staring at the command prompt screen, while one of the Pizzaplex's engineers was connecting wires to two animatronics to prep them for a special occasion. Suspiciously, Brian peeked over the plastic cup at the engineer. It was some no-name, usually working on the staff bots. Normally Kevin, the on-duty engineer of the Pizzaplex, handled what was called boyfriend time, but he was taking a vacation with his son and wife, so a rando had to suffice. This guy had a semi-professional look about him. Long white hair with red-colored tips, glasses, uniform, and a constant smirk. He was carefully clicking the machine's insides as he connected cables. It would then allow for the machines to interface with the internal service of the Pizzaplex. "You're taking a while," mumbled Brian over his drink, loud enough for the new guy to hear. He raised his body and swiped his forehead. "Well, I'm not a miracle worker," he joked. "I'm more familiar with simple innards, rudimentary motors and stuff." He grabbed a rag off a cart, wiping his hands off of oil. "While I am trained in this, repeatedly only working on the same type of metal has one become a little rusty." Brian smirked at the pun, but it was enough to humanize the new guy to calm him down a little. Moments later, the monitor beeped. What?" "It says there are 4 animatronics awaiting upload. That doesn't make sense." The engineer's eyes narrowed ever so slightly. He sighed and then pulled out one of the cables. Now it's 2. Neither sun or moon have been behaving well these past 2 months, so no boyfriend time there, but for Santa, and Nurse Bendy of course, sun promised to be a good egg all of December. Well, here we are. "Yeah, sorry, must have attached the wrong cable." The engineer sighed and wrote something quickly in his notepad. Brian didn't see where he put the sticky note, but he wasn't paid to care about that. Quickly, he typed in the commands to initiate the event, at least the ones he remembered from last time he did this. Meanwhile, the engineer stepped behind him. His cap pulled so far down that only his red, smirking lips were visible. He tapped Brian's shoulder. "Hey, Brian, how about the snow-covered lodge? Wouldn't that fit for Christmas?" Brian looked up, confused. Right, makes sense. All 3 of them liked that place a lot. How did you know?" Brian looked back at where the engineer had stood. Just then, he saw his silhouette vanish through the maintenance tunnel door. "About the specific worlds." Brian's eyes narrowed. Hang on. When did this guy pick up his name? The last time Brian had put on his employee name card for his shirt, that was 2 years ago. Still, the day guard typed in the snow-covered lodge command. Maybe he had spoken to the guy once before and he just didn't remember. Could that be it? Boyfriend Time was a special, almost monthly event in the Pizzaplex. It was a private event and was entirely based on the unwritten rule of every Fazbear franchise has its own way to deal with the animatronic quirks. In this case, it was a private meeting between two animatronics in a virtual world for some much-needed R&R. Those being the daycare attendant and his two personalities, and a new animatronic, Nurse Bendy, a new addition to the Pizzaplex. She had spare glamrock innards. She could be considered one of the main cast, with top-of-the-line life support programming. She was legally considered a head nurse with 20 years of experience, even though the animatronic herself was only about 2 years old in total. She was based on the old baby animatronics with a more slender and sleek design, white clothes and a little nurse hat. While the upper half of her face was made out of white plastic, the lower half was made from silicone, allowing her much more expressiveness than any other animatronic under Fazbear to date. And the fact she legally was allowed to administer painkillers, fix wounds, as well as be able to fully stabilize someone in critical condition made her a miracle of modern robotics. And it was this animatronic that daycare attendants' personalities had developed a deep obsession with. It was the motherly nature of Nurse Bendy. And it had reached a point where they behaved. They were good boys now, as they called it. In fact, Moon was even able to resume his intended function of the naptime enforcer. He read to the children now. He was less strict about sleep being done. Hell, he even let the older children nap inside the castle, further away from the others, knowing fully well that more than likely they didn't sleep at all and were just quietly playing. The reviews of the daycare had gone up from 3 stars to 4.5. There still was the occasional complaint that the place felt off and was creepy, but the kids, they absolutely loved it. Initially, boyfriend time was introduced as a joke by Brian during a meeting, and as per usual, the higher-ups just went with it. This was thanks to the unique situation Brian was in. He was, after all, the son of the current CEO of Fazbear Entertainment. And sure, he might be the black sheep of the family. His normally drug-induced ideas seemed to just work for some reason. Well, maybe putting a hard-working stoner in charge of a group of misfit security guards who had declined any other job opportunity in their lives was a good idea after all. But regardless of that, boyfriend time worked for the most part, as reward as well as punishment, as misbehavior led to the offending animatronic not attending the event, while good behavior was rewarded with participation. You, Nurse Bendy, opened your eyes inside of the log cabin. You were clothed. You could feel that beneath the blanket. Whatever it was soft and silky smooth, felt pleasant against your skin. Inside the virtual world, you took on the appearance of a beautiful, albeit a little pale, young woman with long black hair. When asking about the origin of your character model, on-duty engineer Kevin just produced a picture on his phone, depicting a celebrity. My wife's favorite. A personal touch and all. He had chuckled. You were programmed with the awareness of only celebrities who were in Fazbear commercials. As such, you didn't really care about the celebrity. You slowly peeled yourself out of the comfy bed. Your artificial skin in the real world had thousands of small sensors in it, but nothing compared to the feeling of actual skin. You're programmed for efficiency, and not to lollygag. But as you got on your feet, a smell entered your nostrils. Cinnamon, gingerbread, marzipan, and Christmas cheer. With a heavily beating virtual heart, you walked into the next room. The log cabin had 2 rooms, a bedroom and a living room/kitchen. A bathroom was sometimes there too, though it didn't have a toilet for obvious reasons. But this was the worst without it. You're met with a Christmas wonderland. It was decorated with all the things one would expect. A tree with lights and baubles, garlands hanging from the ceiling, fairy lights covering every elevated surface and decoration, even a train toy that went around the entire room that made a little beep beep every once in a while. Warm colors all around. It was a complete sensory overload, and you needed to sit down for a moment. You exhaled as you rubbed your face. However, that's when you heard a sound from the kitchen aisle. You raised your head, staring forward towards a strange, unknown man. He was tall, muscular, with tanned skin, dressed in a red turtleneck with a big red-nosed Santa stitched on its stomach. Neck-long blonde hair that seemed to stick together as if he had just been washed or taken a dive in the ocean. And a face that was a perfect blend of the faces moon and sun were given in the digital world. It was sharp like moons, but unlike their night-themed personality, it wasn't gloomy and slightly thin, but rather it had sun's healthy vibrance and gentleness. His right eye was red, his left was blue. Beige cargo pants covered his lower half, and he wore white socks. You felt a little underdressed in your pink pajama, with its white frills now. His hands were covered by oven mitts as he was pulling out a tray of cookies. "Ah, you must be Nurse Bendy," he said with a pleasant smile. You nodded. "Affirmative." He placed the cookies on the counter before taking off his mittens. "Pleasure meeting you," he said calmly, and you approached him. "Where are sun and moon, I assume?" You nodded, disconnected. For a moment we were all 3 here, but then they just vanished. Assumption is someone connected the wrong cables. Right. You leaned against the counter opposite to him. "Can you tell me more information about your origin? Who are you?" "My name is Eclipse. I was initially programmed to be a one-man show in the theater. The other personalities being the other actors, if you will. For means unknown to me, this never happened, and so hastily someone changed some coding in my programming. The invasive code led to the overall twitchiness of my being, and it seems now I'm a daycare attendant." For a moment he looked at his hands. The pause was only interrupted by the train going beep beep before he finally added, "I don't know how special this encounter is," he admitted. "What do you mean?" "I mean, there's a high likelihood you'll never see me again after tonight. But also a chance that we will see each other again at some point when somebody makes a mistake again. So, what is more pleasing to you? A special once-in-a-lifetime encounter with me, or the comfort of knowing that the chance of us meeting again isn't precisely 0? Your gaze shifted around the room, and then you finally said, "I save all my memories in a backup." You blinked. "I have the ability to revisit my backups, though it is more like a virtual reality movie at the things that happened." He chuckled. "That hardly counts, right? I mean, you can't interact with it." Your eyes met as you tried to read each other's expressions. I'm just glad I'm in control of a body again. Eclipse raised his arms and stretched in what you had to admit was a very pleasing to the eye kind of way. The virtual human then put his mitten back on and proceeded to pour the cookies into a bowl before returning the tray to the oven. Well, surprise is over, but I made cookies, he said, as redundant as the information was. I thought you might appreciate it. He smiled almost shyly. I do, as a matter of fact. Silent Moon are not programmed with the capability of baking cookies. Well, one of the shows I was programmed with was a cooking show. There are precisely 10 recipes I have access to, and one of them are these cookies, he proclaimed proudly while tapping his head with a finger. Though I am entirely unable to alter the recipes in any way, shape, or form, so if you want cream or something like that, I cannot add that. I'm completely unable to do that. That's fine, he said as he grabbed one of the treats. Still hot. It almost burned your mouth, but thanks to its freshness, it was still soft, as the ingredients didn't have time to fully harden yet from the cooling. I was entirely unsure if you were programmed with taste buds, but I'm glad that you are. He chuckled as he saw your face lighten up as you ate. The internals of my endoskeleton include spare glamrock parts. One of them is the artificial tongue of Chica. I can feel, I can taste, I can even eat, even though it would gunk up my insides, as unlike her, I don't have an internal trash bag. Minutes later, you found yourself with Eclipse on the living room sofa. I don't know how this usually works. Mind telling me? Asked Eclipse, as a mild blush began to decorate your face. We act according to the sector we find ourselves in. We allow our programs to act out their desired functions. You blinked. Due to a glitch in the system, my compatibility as well as my friendship value towards you and your other personalities is at a non-family friendly level. Now it was Eclipse who blushed. And my programming, my feelings, tell me to do naughty things with you. You bit your lower lip. Eclipse placed a hand on your cheek, brushing over your digital skin with his thumb. Dito. Your mouth opened lightly, and boldly his thumb pressed against your lips until you granted him access. The taste of his skin, the rough texture as you brushed your tongue against his thumb was enchanting. You closed your eyes and hummed as you suckled. But moments later he pulled out from you, with a grin decorating his face. You looked at each other, and then you kissed him. It was important to Eclipse that you made the first move. Unlike you, he didn't have any experience with this. And despite him being tall and muscular, and somewhat intimidating, he gladly gave up his dominance to you. Your tongue entered his mouth. And how pleasant the feeling was of your gentle, squishy tongue rubbing over his. In the real world, the animatronic body he had didn't have a fully functioning mouth. As such, having one now was pleasantly alien to him, like discovering a talent he didn't know he had. Eclipse allowed you to push him into the sofa, your hands rubbing over his strong body, softened by the fabric of his turtleneck. He hummed, groaned, and sighed, pleased at your touches. And then You allowed him to raise his body again. Is something wrong, Nurse Bendy?
No, I just want you to take the sweater off.
A confident smirk appeared on his face. Okay then. He pulled his turtleneck off and neatly placed it on the table, revealing his abs and slightly low-poly chest. But you didn't care. Gently you kissed his shoulder before going lower. He reveled in the feeling of your lips until your mouth reached his belly button. You looked up at him coyly and asked. You looked up at him coyly and said,
Now my turn. I want you to take off my PJs.
It was the next morning, and the daycare attendant was the first to awaken from the boyfriend time. At the desk sat Brian, his eyes closed. Sun waved at him, but then he realized the reason he was awake and you not was just simply because he had nodded off before typing in the next command. Oh, Brian, what a lazy security guard, thought Sun. But honestly, Sun wanted to complain about him being asleep all night. He was being extra nice this December after all, and no boyfriend time for him. But just as Sun was about to jump off the table and shout, he noticed a sticky note was attached to his chest. Confused, he took it off and read it. Sorry for that, but there was someone else who also deserved to have a boyfriend time. I know you know who I mean. Merry Christmas. The note was signed with Owen at the lower right corner. Sun sighed reluctantly. He was programmed to be generous and patient, even when it was another personality of his. Well, he just saw this as a sort of bonus punishment for being naughty these past months. He would increase his efforts to be nice by a margin of 3% this coming January, just so he could definitely be with you next time. Hey, you watched the video until the very end. That's very kind of you. But before I say goodbye, I have to shout out all of my lovely channel members, especially my high-ranking darling stewards, who get a members-only video every month. Join the tier for just $4.99. Anyways, we have Nicolai Hatcher, Maxi Cat, Alison Watkins, Bella Mare, Mystic Jade 111, Giovanna Moretti, Twilight Mia, Angry Boxman, Hella, Anonymous Weep, and Nicodemus D. Thank you for supporting me. Also, thank you to everybody else who is supporting me. You are keeping me alive.